Oh, it's nothing to be alarmed about. We'll be back to you very quickly.
Differences between the globe and the flat Earth become apparent when considering distances south of the equator. After all, haven't navigators, geographers, and map makers mapped these areas? And shouldn't they have noticed this quirk by now, if the Earth is indeed flat? Well, the reality is, the rabbit hole just gets deeper from here. So, to begin, the distance between Sydney, Australia and Nelson, New Zealand, on the ball Earth, given their coordinates and sparing you the spherical trigonometry, should be 1,310 miles. But the Australian Handbook, Almanac Shippers and Importers Directory states the measured distance as being 1,550 miles, which is a full 18% longer. And while on the ball Earth model, Antarctica is said to be a continent of ice situated at the bottom of the ball from 78 degrees south latitude, it should therefore not have a perimeter greater than 12,000 miles. However, early explorers like Captain Cook and James Clark Ross, in attempting to circumnavigate Antarctica, took 3 to 4 years to do so, and clocked in the distance traveled at 50 to 60,000 miles. That's twice the circumference of the equator. But the real proof for the flat Earth map is in the flight paths. On the ball Earth, several flights would have their shortest, quickest, and straightest path over or around the Antarctic continent. But instead, these flights take all manner of tangential detours, crossing into the northern hemisphere to refuel. Their reason? Antarctica's too cold, they claim. Well, I'm not buying it. When they claim there are bases with working machinery set up all over Antarctica. So let's just take a look at the actual flight paths and see what they have to disclose. One flight that should be a simple 11-hour shot across the Indian Ocean is from Johannesburg, South Africa to Perth, Australia. However, this flight takes a detour north, stopping in either Dubai, Hong Kong, or Malaysia to refuel, for a total flight time averaging over 18 hours. This ridiculously wayward detour is frustrating to say the least, but on the flat Earth map starts to make sense. Another quick and easy flight, you would think, is from Johannesburg to Santiago, Chile. While an easy 12-hour flight below the Tropic of Capricorn is to be expected, instead, every flight crosses the equator to refuel in Senegal, all the way near the Tropic of Cancer, for a total flight time of 19 hours. Though it doesn't make sense on the globe, as you can see it fits perfectly on the flat Earth map. A third flight from Johannesburg is to Sao Paulo, Brazil, which should be a direct 10-hour flight across the 25th degree south latitude. But instead, every flight crosses into the north to stop in London to refuel, making the total flight time 24 hours. From Santiago, Chile to Sydney, Australia, a straight 15-hour flight across the South Pacific is expected, despite refueling options in either New Zealand or any island in the South Pacific. The flight stops all the way at Los Angeles to refuel before continuing south to its destination. As already stated, these detours make no sense on the globe, but are explained and work perfectly well on the flat Earth map, having the North Pole at the center. So investigate the subject for yourself.
This bullet just handed to me. Stricken airliner approaching Chicago.
それ面白いよ。ニュースの実感です。宇田発音が伝えます。ヘッドストライカー。
I'm on planefinder.net. I'm tracking airplanes in the southern hemisphere, trying to do some research to verify or debunk this flat Earth guy. And what he said is that airplanes disappear in the South Atlantic near the, in the southern hemisphere when they fly over oceans, and it's true. I was tracking a British Airways flight from Buenos Aires to London, and I was tracking, and then it disappeared. And then I clicked on this plane right here, Qatar. See how the flight path, like when you click on the plane, the flight path appears or disappears, right? So I clicked on this plane looking for my British Airways flight, and I found this flight, and look, see how the flight path just starts in the middle of nowhere right here? His flight path starts in the middle of nowhere. That's because what they do with flights in the southern hemisphere is they disappear them. They turn off the GPS over the ocean, and then they reappear the flights about an hour before landing. And that's exactly what the flat earth guy said they do. And that's exactly what they're doing. This guy's going to Rome. Okay. So this is a pretty good flight to track because he's going all the way to Europe. So I just clicked on this flight. Same thing. This guy, we should have saw him before when we were tracking the other plane and when we were tracking this plane that's heading to Rome. But this guy, when we were tracking the plane headed to Rome, he wasn't even on the map. He's coming from Abu Dhabi. It's in the Middle East. He's been in the air for what, 12, 13, 14, 15 hours? He's been in the air for 7,000 miles, and we're just picking him up right here. We're just picking him up in the middle of nowhere. Look, they disappeared the flight over the entire ocean, and they're reappearing it for landing about an hour before landing. Think about it. He's got 500 miles to go. It's about an hour before landing, just like the flat earth guy said. I mean, take a look at what this guy's flight path should look like on a flat earth model. This stuff's crazy. You have to look into this for yourselves. Don't pretend like you know everything, because you only know what you've been taught, and we know that the stuff we've been taught was a bunch of bullshit.
It's an entirely different kind of flying, altogether.
It's an entirely different kind of flying.
better tell the captain. We've got to land as soon as we can. This woman has to be gotten to a hospital.
A hospital? What is it?
It's a big building with patients, but that's not important right now.
That flight where when the lady gave birth to a baby, he departed from Taiwan. So, caught on camera, amazing moment. A woman gives birth to a premature baby girl at 30,000 feet on a Taiwan to Los Angeles flight. So here are some of the pictures. You know, you can see these online. Just go to the Mail online. All right, and type there Taiwan to Los Angeles flights. So China Airlines a China Airlines flight landed in Alaska with an extra passenger after an expectant mother gave birth to a baby girl more than 8 weeks early. The Taiwan to Los Angeles flight was forced to make an emergency landing on Thursday after Taiwanese passengers' water broke 6 hours into the 19-hour journey. So if she departed, that's why I have here, let's go. She departed Taiwan, okay, Taiwan right here, and she was flying to Los Angeles, okay, it's the blue line, okay, she was flying to Los Angeles. 6 hours into the flight, let's say 1:30, 1/3 of the journey, the water broke. Okay, so I'm dividing this distance in 3. Okay, it's 19 hours flight. 6 hours into the flight, they had to land. So the easiest way for her could have been actually Hawaii, right here in the middle. Okay, Hawaii. She could have flown to Japan. She could have, not she, the pilot could have flown back to Taiwan, but they landed in Alaska, okay? So on a sphere, doesn't really make sense. But when you look here, you see a straight line, it's Taiwan right here, down to LA. So they made an emergency stop right here in Alaska. It only makes sense on a flat Earth map, not on a globe, okay? So this is the first flight. Let's talk about the second one. From USA Today, Cathay Pacific plane, faulty fan for emergency landing. So I have here a map, also the same thing, okay? They left Hong Kong to Los Angeles. They could have stopped right here in Hawaii. Instead, they went all the way to Alaska. It doesn't really make sense on the globe. Just like the Taiwan flight. Makes perfect sense on the flat Earth map. Hong Kong, LA, Alaska. Hong Kong, LA, Alaska. That's where they landed, okay? All right, we got some more. So Qatar Airways makes emergency landing in Alaska, right here. QDN line, okay? Qatar to Alaska. Qatar to, the flight was from Chicago to Doha, okay? From Chicago to Doha. All right, Chicago. Let's look at Chicago right here. Green line. Let's say they're flying straight to Doha over the Atlantic, okay? They could have stopped in Spain, Portugal, or North Africa, anywhere in North Africa, all the way here to Doha, okay? This green line will be the route from this flight, Chicago to Doha. Moscow is right here, okay? So how could they have stopped in Moscow if they are flying from Chicago to Doha? Okay, Moscow is up here. Okay, why? It doesn't make sense here. But when you look here, you see here the blue line, Chicago, Doha. Okay. What do we have? This sticker right here. Moscow. Okay, this is Moscow right here. Okay, Moscow. Right, Chicago, Doha, Moscow. That's why they landed in Moscow, because it was probably the nearest airport for them. They were flying over Russia. Okay, so we have here. All right, let me read it for you. Moscow, an Emirates passenger plane en route from San Francisco to Dubai made an emergency landing at Moscow's Domodedovo airport after one of its passengers felt sick, a source at the airport told TASS on Sunday. Okay, so another flight from North America to the Middle East that made an emergency landing in Moscow. So let's look here. San Francisco, okay, this is the black line here, San Francisco. Let's say they flew over the Atlantic again, right? They would have to fly over the Atlantic and then Spain, Italy, Turkey, and then Dubai, okay? That's the route. Or if they flew over the Pacific, they would have flown over China, all the way to Pacific, and San Francisco. Right? So, where's Moscow? Why stopping in Moscow? Okay, Moscow is up here. Okay, this circle here is Moscow. Right? Dubai, right here. Okay? Makes no sense. So, one more time, if we look here, San Francisco. Okay, get this closer. San Francisco. Hi, Dubai. Okay, this blue line right here. San Francisco, Dubai. Moscow. Hi, they landed in Moscow. Okay. All right, we got 2 more flights. This is interesting too. It happened in, let me see here, the date. I don't know. Hi, girl 9 dies on flights to Germany after suffering medical emergency. A young Italian girl has reportedly died during a flight to Germany after suffering a medical emergency. The 9-year-old was a passenger on Lufthansa's Airbus A340-600, flying from Shanghai, China to Munich when she stopped breathing. Okay, so let's look here. Flying from Shanghai to Munich. Okay, that's the red line right here. Okay, Shanghai. Okay, flying over China and Kazakhstan and Munich. Okay, Moscow is not that far, but if you look on a flat map, okay, that would be this red line right here. Shanghai, China, Munich, Moscow. Again, this sticker here means Moscow is right here. Okay, Shanghai, Munich, Moscow, right above Moscow. That's why they landed there. Okay, and the last one that I have also from Asia to Europe. This is a PIA flight, a Pakistani Airlines flight. PIA Flights makes emergency landing in Moscow. This is from this website. I'm not familiar, never seen this down before. But the London-bound PIA flight made emergency landing in Moscow on Sunday after one of its passengers complained of severe chest pain. The PIA flight's PK785 took off from Benazir Bhutto International Airport, Islamabad, on Sunday afternoon. That was on March 15, 2015. Okay, March 15, 2015. All right, so it departed from Islamabad to London. All right, so let's find Islamabad right here. Pakistan, right here. Islamabad. So we follow this line to London. Okay, straight flight right here. London, Islamabad. So he flew over Iran and Romania and Germany. Okay, Moscow is up here. All right, not that far. Okay, let's consider. Okay, although they were flying over many other countries, to divert to Moscow would be quite a distance for someone who is complaining of a severe chest pain. But again, if you look on the flat earth map, we have here Pakistan, London, straight over Moscow. Okay, it's a straight flight. Pakistan, London, Moscow. Again, one more time, these dots here, Moscow. Okay, there is another flight that I saw it, but when I went back to try to find the link so I could print, I couldn't find it anymore. I just couldn't find it. It was also a flight over Europe to Germany, coming from somewhere in the Middle East. So that flight, I could not find it anymore, the link.
And you'll have to talk them onto the approach. So help me, you'll have to talk them right down to the ground.
Right, you do understand that the latitude lines
are fake? Yes.
Get wider on the azimuthal equidistant map.
Correct. But imagine
they're not parallel. They're not parallel.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
There's a standard parallel.
So
standard parallel is a line of latitude that has true scale.
Okay, so imagine
I sat and listened to Rob Skiba.
Imagine this. Just look at this map. Let's say this is the true map of the Earth. Let's just say for right now. And they need to turn this into a globe. They would immediately say, okay, we need to cut out water because we need to wrap it on a globe. So if they took this and said, cut this out, okay, and then they built their GPS system around a new Earth, this Earth that's all here. They don't count the water that they cut out. And then they cut out this water, and they cut out this water. Then you could take the flat map, and you could wrap it on a globe, and then you assign longitude and latitude to it. Now, these areas here don't exist. So when a plane flies in the Southern Ocean, which isn't it interesting that they lose connectivity when these planes, let's say they take off from here. If the plane gets here over the land, it's going to move a certain distance at a certain speed, but this distance doesn't count, right? So it actually went here to here, and then according to GPS, here to here. And that's how you figure out the distance that a plane went is by GPS, by ground-based tracking. Plus, if you have...
Wow. Wait, Jaron, really, what is in that voided area then if they're not actually flying over that? You're
water.
Just talking about GPS, right?
Water, yes. GPS has been...
it's actual distance, though.
Who comes up with actual distance? This is what I'm trying to get through to you guys. Who creates actual distance? Distance is measured off GPS today. That's the only thing that we have that measures distance. A plane cannot know. A plane
really not. I think what Laurie's saying is that they do have to fly over that void, but it's not calculated as distance.
That's what I said.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. I'm just explaining that.
It's funny to me that you guys laugh because it's so simple of a deception that to laugh at it is funny. How could you laugh at it? Because it's so simple for them to do. And then you guys laugh at it. It's even more simple than I thought because you can't even see it.
These are real people taking real plane flights and in real boats going real distances, and time is passing. How is that just not happening? And
Nobody
people
said
don't
that.
know it.
Nobody said that. You need to. Okay, look. Imagine this. Hear me out.
I'm hearing.
Okay, hear me out. This plane here that we go from Sydney to
Johannesburg.
No, we'll go Sydney to Santiago, Chile. Okay, Max Egan did that in 11.5 hours. We calculated it. He did it live. Okay, 11 and a half hours. And this distance on the globe is like 6,500 miles, okay? And if you do the math on that, you just need to figure it out, the math. If you do 6,500 divided by 11.5 hours, and we get, the plane was going 565, okay? So 565 miles per hour. Now, here's the crazy thing, is there is 200 mile per hour winds at 40,000 feet that carry things this direction.
They're not at 40,000 feet at all, Joe. They're at 14,000 feet.
Excuse me?
And they do go in both directions.
40,000 feet at
No.
all. They're at 14,000
No,
feet.
40
They're not as high. They're not as high.
Yeah, 40,000 feet is where the jet stream
No,
is.
14, 1-4.
No, 40. Want me to go show you?
They're at
Okay, so these are the jet streams. If you go right here, wind, go up to 70 HPA, pull this into an azimuthal equidistant map, and maybe I can't show it. Okay, so this map here, hello, azimuthal equidistant, AE.
Can you show it on the live stream, Jaron?
Yeah, I'll try 1 second, but I've never, look at this thing won't go to AE anymore. AE. Now that's crazy if that's true. Ta-da! It won't go to AE anymore. This is stuck on globe. I never seen that before. See this? It won't go to. You know what's funny is that it used to be a. It used to be a. It used to center at the North Pole, and then the guy switched it to where it centered at the South Pole. And I wrote him an email saying, "Why are you doing that?" And then he said, "Because I wanted to show that it's not important that it's centered at the North Pole." And now it won't even let you go there at all. Anyway, we can look at here. There. Let's just. We'll do it on the globe. So these are the. See these red winds, the southerly winds, the jet streams. But if you look at the red ones, there's 198 kilometers an hour, 193, 162. Okay, so these winds are at, if I go to 250 HPA, which is about 35,000 feet, and so now we're at 35,000 feet. These winds can be even faster. Where's the south there? So these winds here, can move even faster. These ones are 193. So knowing that, and these are, if you look up 250 HPA, 250 HPA altitude, that is going to be 35,000 feet. 70 is about 45,000 feet. So I'm not saying that planes go that high. So
Put 2505 in there.
What did I put? Sorry, did I put something wrong? Okay, so here's your HPA versus your altitude. So at 250, you're at altitude 33,000 feet. Okay. And then 38,000 feet is 200. I was down at 70, which is obviously more than 50,000 feet. So this is another thing that's weird about this is why don't they let you pick a number between 250 and 70? But anyway, so these, even at 250, which is only 34,000 feet, you've got winds, let's say 150 miles per hour. So now if we go back to that drawing I was doing here. Okay. So now here's what we know now that there's 150 mile per hour tailwind. So here's what you have to believe. Either you believe in the globe and you think that that plane is going 415 miles per hour, which is the most ridiculous nonsense. The plane can go 650 easily. So do you think it's going 415 miles per hour, or do you think that it's possibly going 565 plus the 150 and actually going 715 miles per hour? Which one do you think is true? They're saying that they go 415. That's what they believe. That's what you have to believe, because this is going in 65.
Huh? They have to go. They have to go back. They have to go back the opposite direction. What happens then?
Then
let me. Well, yeah. I mean, that's part of it. But here's the other thing.
That flight takes 14 hours.
Here's the other thing.
Well, so are yours, because you're asking jet streams.
Yeah, jet streams are real.
Let Jaron respond to Darren's answer, because he has a good answer for this. And I'll just throw in there that these flights are not regular. They vary by 5 or 6 hours sometimes.
Yeah, Darren, you just said they're the same.
Really don't.
Darren, going from Sydney to Santiago takes 11 and a half hours. Going back takes 14 and a half. So those are not identical flight times. It's because one has jet streams, one doesn't. So you can laugh all you want that you guys don't want to understand jet streams, or you want to think they're fake, that every plane takes them. Every plane in the north takes the jet streams. That's why sometimes planes can get you incredibly fast to where you're going, because there's a 200 mile per hour tailwind. That's how planes know how high to fly. They actually try and get up into the jet streams all the time. If there's a jet stream...
Nobody's denying that whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah, but sometimes a couple of hours late, but a lot of the time...
I didn't say anything's late. Hold on. Time out.
Time out. People decide that for themselves. It's only... it's your opinion.
But it's not my opinion. I can show you the flight times. They're not. It's scheduled that way. So you're putting words in my mouth and you say, "Oh, go look," and these people are going to be late. They're not late. They know what time the plane's going to get there. It's an 11 and a half hour flight one way, 14 and a half hour the other way. It's in the books. It's not. These are not. I'm not saying they're getting there late. I'm saying they're exactly what they say they're going to be. I didn't say they're going to get there late. Yeah, customers would complain if they did that, but they don't complain when you get told you're going to have a 14-hour flight and you have a 14-hour flight. Everybody's happy, But if you read about the jet streams, and you'll see that the ones located in the north and the south are basically fixed. They're not. It's not a matter of like the ones above the United States that vary. They're basically fixed. So it is a matter of they can plan their flights because they know that those jet streams exist. It's, right here, the main commercial relevance of jet streams is in air travel, as flight time can be dramatically affected by either flying with the flow or against, which results in significant fuel and time cost savings for airlines. Often the airlines work to fly with the jet stream for this reason. The dynamic North Atlantic tracks are one example of how airlines and air traffic control work together to accommodate the jet stream and winds aloft. That's what they're kind of called more often, winds aloft. That results in the maximum benefit for airlines. Plus, if you get up that high, there's no turbulence. But what I'm saying here about distance is, if you're being carried by a 200 mile per hour jet stream, the plane, the passengers, the pilots, the people on the ground, nobody knows that unless you reference GPS and ground-based tracking. There is no measurement. The plane is being carried by a jet stream. It cannot determine its own speed. It can just type in 0.95 Mach. The plane stays at exactly 660 miles per hour, and it can be carried by the jet streams at that speed. And because they know that the speed is 200 miles per hour on average, then the plane gets there when they say it's going to get there. What I'm saying is we know those things are facts. So now what it comes down to is whether or not the plane is going 415 or 750. To me, the plane's going 750. Why would they fly the plane 250 miles less than its maximum speed? Especially when you're up that high in altitude, there's less air to get through. You can actually operate more efficiently. So to me, it's just obvious that they're going 750. So then you can figure out, well, if they're going 750 miles per hour times 11 and a half hours, well, then that flight is actually 8,500 miles, not 6,500 miles. So we just introduced 2,000 miles of Southern Ocean that doesn't exist on the globe, but it does exist, or else you have to believe that planes are going under speed. So to me, those are the kind of things that you can put together and say, no, there's vast areas of ocean that are and here's another thing. I looked up because I said, well, what about cruises? I said a plane, okay, now I've got the plane. I know that it can be carried by the jet streams, but a cruise ship cannot really be carried by currents very fast, right? We know how big a big cruise ship is. So I said, let me go look for cruises that go from New Zealand to South America, because that'll prove what the distance is. Guess what? There is none. There's none. So if there's no cruises that go, then all of a sudden you'd say, why is there no cruises? And then
because who wants to cruise over the Pacific for weeks on end?
I don't know. They can go to Easter Island. They can go to Papeete.
I do. I do.
Okay, one more thing, and I'm done. Just the Southern Oceans. If you look at the cables that were stretched across the ocean floor, we know that they use ground cables right underneath the ocean cables. Mm-hmm. So find any map and then try and find cables that went across the south. So I don't know, where's a good map? This one here. So all of a sudden, if you look, there is no cables that go across. That's a bad map. This one here. Okay, there is no cables that go across the south. Why? Because this is a huge amount of water that they're lying to you about. Every evidence points to it. There is no, see this right here? There's no, because planes here go across land. Water doesn't exist. If somebody tried to lay a cable here, they would end up 3,000 miles short. I'm just going to say real quick, just so people understand my opinion of what's going on here. And that is that once I realized how easy it is for them to manipulate numbers with GPS, with a grid system, with anything, then I had to take, what can we know for sure? And, we may know that from New York to California is 2,500 miles. We know that. But what happens out here, you don't know. Meaning if a plane is flying from here to here, we don't know this distance in any other way besides the GPS coordinates that they've laid out here is how far the plane thinks it's traveling. So planes are set at Mach 0.95 or 0.89, meaning that the plane flies a consistent speed versus the speed of sound up in the sky, and then when it gets to its location, it figures out how fast it was going and everything based on the ground-based tracking. So if those numbers are manipulated, then there's a lot of options available for us to look at the Earth in a new way and say, okay, land masses are probably not too much different. I still think they can be different because if you traveled this distance on a globe, you're going over a hump, which is more miles than if you're not going over a hump. So when I look at these distances and I started playing with it, made perfect sense to me that this could be 8,000 miles. This could be 8,000 miles based on how much land you're actually traveling over versus how much water, and then everything else can be adjusted. If we think that they've lied to us on the level that we've all agreed that they've lied to us, I'm shocked that people can't understand that they need to go a little bit further into giving these guys a little more credit than you're giving them. We're pretending like we know the miles are correct because people have done it for thousands. No, people have not done it thousands of years. There were a lot of people that didn't sail the oceans. They didn't because they didn't know how to navigate until there were GPS and things like that. Now there's cruise boats but these boats are all traveling distances that has been given to them. Granted, on a cruise ship.
Thing is, Jerry, I get you, but they know how fast an aeroplane flies. Yeah, it gets tested and tested. We know how fast an aeroplane flies, and they know how long the flight takes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a basic mathematical thing that, speed, distance is speed times time, isn't it?
So I just showed you that you then think that the plane going from Sydney to Santiago goes 200 miles below its maximum speed, just because. That's what you think.
No, to be honest with you, I don't think it's going that route at all.
No, you do think it.
Is it?
I'm talking about on the globe.
Is it using some air currents and
Jaron, hold on.
Yes, very, very probably. Yes, very, very probably. Yes, very, very probably.
2 more minutes. They could be miles off course.
That's impossible. They're on instruments.
Yes, very, very probably.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
I'm talking about on the globe.
Is it using some air currents and
Jaron, hold on.
Yes, very, very probably.